it going? So today I want to show you how I made these super cute succulent ornaments. So I'm getting ready to decorate a natural themed Christmas tree this year. And so I've been thinking of different things that I could make to put on this tree, different things from around the house and yard I can gather up for it. And I thought that this would be really fun because, I mean, we can use the succulents on these ornaments and then I can pop them off later and I'll talk about that and replant them and they will live and grow and all of that business. So you can make them out of like birch rounds like this right here, or you can go purchase wood ornaments like this one right here. This is a little birdhouse. It's got a little galvanized metal roof, which might be pushing it for a natural themed Christmas tree, but I think it's passable. So anyway, I just wanted to talk through like the different steps you would take for something like this. It's essentially like mounting succulents on driftwood, which we've done a series of before, and you may have seen pictures of something like that before. But it's been a really long time since we did a project like that. So what you need for a project like this is something to mount your succulents on. So whether it be, you know, a wood ornament or something even like this. I'm actually going to show you. This is going to be my example today. I've got this little metal, galvanized metal Christmas ornament shaped ornament, but it has like this natural little pocket, which is perfect. You need sphagnum moss, and this is the best type of moss to use because it absorbs water, but also it releases it quickly, so it'll keep your succulents happy. And then of course you need succulent cuttings. So you can take fresh cuttings right before you do this project, or you can take them a few days before and let the cut ends callus. I find it's kind of like you don't need to cut them early just because a lot of times you're going to need to trim the stems to size anyway to get them to look right. And there's nothing wrong with not letting the ends heal over in this case. It won't hurt the succulent at all. And then you also need some hot glue. So I've got my hot glue gun all revved up, ready to go. So essentially, let me just walk you through the steps. I'm just going to be using this gorgeous chocolate soldier calancho succulent right here. It's just going to be a single succulent nested down in that ornament, and I think it'll be really striking that way. So we're just going to apply some hot glue in here, and then our sphagnum moss. And I'm just going to hold it in place for a second and make sure it's nice and dry. I'm hoping that this project gives you guys confidence, because I know especially when you're getting started with succulents, you think that like cutting them up is going to kill them or hurt them. Using hot glue might kill them or hurt them, and it doesn't. So you could use the tacky gel glue. I think there's like white and clear that you get at the craft store as well for a project like this. But for me, hot glue works so much faster. That tacky glue, it takes forever to dry. So if you're doing anything vertical, like today I want to be able to mount this succulent and then show you right away how it can hang. So the glue just dries so much faster. So I've got my bed of sphagnum moss in here, and this is what the succulents would root into. They don't need to necessarily root straight into soil. Of course, a succulent won't live as long, like not for as long of a time, it just left in the moss. So you want to keep that in mind too. This is not our end plan for the succulents. This is just something fun to do with them for a little while. And then we're going to take our succulent, and on our cut end, we're going to apply hot glue. This does not hurt the plant one bit because that plant will just heal off. The cut end will heal off. Oh, I'm making a mess with my hot glue. I am not very talented with the hot glue gun. Anyway, the cut end will heal off, the plant will be fine, and then it will form roots right above the glue and sometimes through the glue right into the moss. Then I'm just going to nest it down into my moss and hold it there until it's secure. You want to be careful when you're applying the glue not to get any on the top of the plant, because that can ruin the appearance, and then also not on the entire stem. So you just want to apply a dab of glue at the very bottom of your cut and then nest it into the moss. Because if you have some nodes exposed, which the nodes are where the leaves attach to the stem, and that's where new roots normally form, and they will sometimes form out of the bottom cut as well. But you want to have some of those exposed and kind of nested into the moss, because once the plant starts to form roots, it won't have any trouble just rooting right into the moss. And like I said too, oftentimes the plant will root right through the glue eventually. I think you can get anywhere from 3 to probably 5 or 6 months out of something like this. I know it's kind of crazy to think, but succulents are incredibly tough. They do not need a lot of care. So long as they're getting sufficient moisture, I think that they'll survive for a while, because after you make a cut like this, it takes a couple of months for them to form new roots. And then they're growing really slow. I mean, they're not putting on any real growth on top. They're just basically like sending all their energy into forming root growth. So that first 2 months they're sitting there trying to like think about forming new roots, and then the few months after they're just kind of establishing a new root system. So eventually though, you're going to have to pop them off something like this, especially when you're not giving them a whole lot to grow in. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Make sure that it kind of seems, yeah, it seems really quite sturdy. Bounce it a little bit. I think that's perfect. Now this is obviously a very simplified version of these. I just kind of wanted to do one that was really bold. And then these have, let me see if I can prop this up. Maybe. These have all kinds of different cuttings in there. There's string of pearls and echeverias and graptosedums, and there's some lemon coral sedum in there. Just all kinds of pretty things. So in the end, I can pop these off. In fact, I created this one right here. Just a very simple one, so I can show you what to do after you're done with them. So like these, I'll decorate my tree this week, and then probably in 3 weeks I will be deconstructing these and planting them again. So I'm going to show you that process now. It's really, really simple. I am going to put some fresh cactus soil in my container. So the container is completely full of cactus soil, and I kind of tamped it down just a little bit. And then when you're getting ready to take your succulents off, you just want to gently ease them out of the moss. So these were hot glued into the moss. And for me, this is probably how my succulents will look when I take them out of this arrangement in 3 weeks, because they won't have time enough to form new roots. But you can see there's a little bit of glue and moss still left on the end, and that's totally fine. You do not have to pry that off. In fact, it's probably better for your plant just to leave it. And then you just simply push your cutting down into soil. So let me do this one. Kind of rock it out of its position here. That one looks really clean. And nest it down in. And then at this point, like right now, I'll go in and give these just a little bit of moisture, and then I'll keep them like once a week water, and they will form roots and grow and do really great. So that's the whole process right there. It's pretty amazing what you can do with these plants. I also wanted to talk about how to water these ornaments, because it's something you have to think about. We're not used to having to set an alarm in our phones to go water our tree ornaments, but it is very easy. I just made these, so I actually don't want to water these because I made fresh cuts on the succulents. I want to let them have a chance just to sit here for a few days. So probably in 3 or 4 days, I will water them. I'll just make sure I water them before I put them on the tree, and then I'll set an alarm. When you don't have that much of a reservoir, like there's not very much moss on this ornament, I'm going to have to water them probably twice a week. I live in a very dry climate though, so you might have to adjust that based on your humidity level and all that kind of thing. But what you do is just gather them off your tree, take them to the sink, and just run water over them enough to get the moss saturated. So it doesn't take a lot. You can also use a big syringe and just direct water in between the succulents, just enough to moisten the moss, or you can use a spray bottle. It doesn't really matter what method, you just want to make sure that moss gets moist every once in a while. So for me, that means twice a week. You also wouldn't want to keep these in a spot that have prolonged times of darkness. You want to make sure they still get light, so maybe put them on the side of the tree that gets more sunlight. For me, only putting these on the tree for about 2.5, 3 weeks, it's not going to be that big of a deal. I know I'm going to be popping these off, repotting them, putting them under grow lights again, so they shouldn't start to stretch in that amount of time. But if you are wanting to keep your ornaments together and looking like this for longer, you just want to make sure they get enough light. So I'm going to keep working. I think I might make 1 or 2 more of these ornaments for my tree. I didn't want a whole bunch, just a handful of them to dot around the tree. I'll go pop these on one of my current trees just so you guys can see what it looks like. But you will be seeing these again later on in this week, maybe this week when I get the tree all done and decorated. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing this process. I just think it's so cute and so different. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.